Okay. Now, adoption of the long-term plan, but Mr. Maxwell came down to talk about the monthly work plan. I wonder if we sneak that through while he's here and then perhaps go to the long-term plan. Is that acceptable? Yeah, okay. So let's go very quickly to item 14 on page 87. Just the monthly work plan looking forward. And open for questions, please. Because Councillor Scott, you had one.
I did have a question around Mr. Maxwell's report on, or the area of compliance, and that was around tomato mushrooms. And I do want to acknowledge that we have, we did receive your brief on this, and we asked questions about it, I think last month. And thank you for the heads up on what was going there. However, given some of the things that have been said in the paper, can you clarify for us? I presume their consent was not was granted on delegation. It didn't go to a hearing.
No, it didn't go to a hearing. It was granted on delegation.
Secondly, they must have been aware of the conditions.
Yes.
Did they challenge those and ask for ask the option to go to a hearing on it?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Can I just supplementary that? Because I'm getting a lot of heat on it, of course. I just need a simple answer, because my simple answer has been they didn't comply to their consent. They were going to build a shed, they built a shed, they didn't build a shed. So that's it. Is that correct? Am I giving the right simple answer?
Look, I'm just going to be cautious because we are in a judicial process now and I don't want to prejudice that. But in essence, as the report indicates, there are 6 charges that relate to odour beyond the boundary. And the key issue here is that they had consent conditions that were required to be met. They had 2 years in which to do that and didn't. And then the conditions of the consent were designed to mitigate the odour effect.
And just to get clarification on Councillor Scott's point, and they had agreed to do that. So these are agreed consent things in the consent?
So there was no challenge to us around the consent conditions to say they're unworkable, inefficient or not practicable. Our expectation was that they would be delivered in the time frame that was set out.
The expectation that they agreed to do that
Absolutely.
And just didn't do it?
Yep.
Councillor Hewitt.
I hear that we're in a judicial process, but I'm wondering what sort of means there is for regional council to be defending themselves, because we've come under quite an extensive social media campaign amongst other campaigns, and one of them's led by a Hastings district councillor, so I think that's pretty inappropriate, and I think there must be a mechanism that we can be batting back on behalf of our compliance team.
Yes, look, and I appreciate your concern. The challenge for us is that this isn't a trial by media. It has to go to the court for a court to make a determination. Professionally, we don't want to be drawn into any social media or any other media campaigns around this, and I appreciate that that doesn't sort of help the politics of the situation, but we have to unfortunately walk a pretty fine line on this. The courts do not look favourably on people taking these issues to the media or using social media to determine an outcome. I'll make the points that we'll be looking at every opportunity through this process to find a pragmatic way forward to resolve this in the most expedient and efficient way possible while maintaining the outcomes that the resource consent set out on behalf of the council.
You're in a difficult position. Maybe it comes higher up, poor form when it's coming from councillors, from other council. It's back to you, maybe, Mr.
We
Chair.
certainly can't speak about the process as staff, but there's obviously a world of politics that we don't work in.
So we can't say Hastings District Council allowed 156 houses to be built around it. We can't say that, no. Okay, Councillor Scott.
in a polite way around about that, Mr. Chairman, and in relation to the whole question of reverse sensitivity, I see that the CEO has referred to an HPUD's meeting, but I have an idea it's not until tomorrow. Is that correct? You haven't yet had one?
No, it's actually been cancelled for tomorrow. One of the main reasons for that was because we hadn't, it had been booked in quite a while ago and Ms. Codlin's not here, so we're rescheduling it for when she's back.
Shortly after
my,
she's back.
My question really was around HPUD's was originally a very cooperative process. We have embedded the findings of the the recommendations of the HPUD's through the Plan Change 4. Are we still on the same page with that? I suppose if you haven't met, you won't know.
It certainly will be a topic for discussion.
But the interesting thing was during the Plan Change 4, the evidence was very strong around reverse sensitivity and protecting a development which will lead to the situations that are developing.
Is there any other questions, Councillor Belford?
I have a question on or a comment on page 91 regarding the upcoming tank group meeting on 30 June. I just, the other day, received the papers for that meeting as a member of the committee, and one of the fundamental issues on the agenda is the issue of leadership of that entire activity. I would suggest, first of all, that every councillor should see the 2-page memo that was prepared for that meeting. I mean, it's obviously gone out to all the members of the stakeholders who are on that committee. But in my judgment, we are making a major mistake in how we're handling this. We basically have a paper that says we have a real leadership issue on the table with respect to the tank process, and we're punting with there not being any clear view from the council as to what it would like to see as an outcome. We're handing this off basically to the group to have kind of a free-form discussion of it, and such a discussion may be called for, but this is conceivably a train wreck waiting to happen, and for us to sort of just kind of, seems to me, sit back and say, yeah, well, we had some consultant ask a dozen people some questions about this. They seem to have pretty universally come back with grievances about the process, and we don't seem to have a view as to how we want to get out of it.
Do we have a view?
Look, I think the councillor, there's always going to be challenges around a collaborative framework, and but certainly the way that the Land and Water Forum and government is looking towards the development of plan change processes, it won't purely be, well, this is the council's view and we're just going to go out and see what submissions and appeals we can attract. It's very much around working with the community to have a sense of ownership of at least a draft plan change before it does come back to the Regional Planning Committee for discussion. There will never be universal consensus on anything as large as a tank plan change. Particularly where it covers water quantity and water quality. But in terms of the leadership, my understanding of it is that while there's been a person facilitating the tank group meetings, one of the key areas that's been identified by a number of the members is not having someone there to actually drive the discussion perhaps a bit harder, and so one of the proposals, and it is only a proposal, it has to be agreed to by the tank members, is to look at having an independent chair, and they'll discuss that at their meeting next week, and presumably come back with recommendations on that or come back with a report on that to the RPC.
And you'd expect council members to have their say on that?
Absolutely. Everyone that's on the tank group, and Councillor Belford, you're one of them, will certainly have your say on that.
Madam Chair, I mean, I've asked before to be some briefing at an appropriate time, not too far away. on that. Sorry.
I answered anything,
Pardon?
Madam Chair, but that's okay.
Oh,
Well, it's happening.
I think the Chief Executive knows what I was asking for. That's an update.
So I think
ASAP.
my recollection from the draft Regional Planning Committee agenda that were prepared for the 15th of July is there's a tank update on that for you all.
Just a question to Mr. Max. There seems to be a heck of a lot of things happening in resource management at the moment. How are we all coping with that as we come to the end of a financial year as well?
I guess it looks busy, certainly in the science space. There's certainly a lot on the go there, bearing in mind there are sort of 35 odd people engaged in that work. Morale's great. They're loving it.
Okay, that's good. And we're getting through it. Okay, that's amazing. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under the asset management biosecurity, the last paragraph, or second draft, is on the two-day symposium. Is this being run by council? What's the range of submitters, and does this build on some of the Hurtoki catchment work?
Is that under land management?
And
Yes.
Waira's hill
Yes,
country erosion
yeah.
work. Under those two.
Yes, it is being facilitated by council. We've decided this is the best way to approach the sort of concept of an East Coast hill country strategy, to get a whole range of people there to talk it through and get the various views on the table so that we can determine a way forward. So yes, put that in your diaries, 29th and 30th of October. It will be held in the Hastings, is it Focal Point Theatre?
Yep.
Yeah.
And my question around building on the work of the Hurtoki catchment and the Waira hill erosion
Yes.
projects, it will
Oh,
take
yeah.
those.
Yeah, it needs to be
Step further.
taking a very wide-ranging view, but we are looking to involve not only Hawke's Bay, we're looking to involve Gisborne and Greater Wellington and Horizons.
Okay. Further questions? Councillor Hewitt.
Just with the Plan Change 6 implementation steering group, can I be kept in the loop with that, advised on dates, please?
Yep, make sure you are. Yep, sorry.
And Councillor Bevan? Yeah. And Councillor Bevan, please, yeah. Yeah. And Councillor Wilson, please, as well.
I raise a question under the resource management on the reporting on the Lake Tutera work. Will that be to the, will that go to the local Tutera stakeholder group? How is that going to be reported on?
Yes, it'll go to the community or the catchment group that exists up there, but also all science reporting now is all going through the Regional Planning Committee as well. So we'll cover it as many ways as possible.
Okay, further questions? Councillor Scott.
Query to staff on the targeted study of the Ahuru estuary. One of our submitters was questioning the amount of work that we were doing on this. Perhaps it might be in answering his submission useful to draw his attention to this work. Do you need the name of that submitter, or do you know?
I remember, thank you.
Okay, no further questions. So maybe move we accept that report. Thank you, Councillor Bevan. We have a seconder, Councillor Scott. Further discussion. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Right, we've got 15 minutes. Let's, at the very least, make a start on the LTP. Oh, hang on. Before we do that, have we had anything back from... We have. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we can continue. So let's make a start anyway. So item 10 on page 17. And I will hand that over to Mr. Drury. I think will take us through that paper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for the adoption of the long-term plan 2015-25, which has been ongoing for a wee while. The purpose of this paper then is to set out the final amendments to that long-term plan. Most of those amendments have been made at your meetings on the 8th, 9th and 10th of June, and you'll have looked through those minutes a little bit earlier. Second thing is to formally adopt this plan, which, as required by the Local Government Act, needs to be adopted by the 30th of June 2015. The consultation on the 8th, 9th and 10th, there were 153 written submissions, 53 submitters and verbally presented to the Council. And subsequent to the adoption of this plan, we will be sending letters out to all those submitters indicating what the Council resolutions are. The resolutions made during the consultation meetings, the results of those are set out in the LTP document, which is attached to your papers, this big wad of paper. It's set out in part 1 under introduction, the heading Our Plan, and you'll notice there that that's been that section in part 1 has been picked up from the consultation document. The issue has been put forward, the options are there, and then the what Council resolved to do as far as their adopted option. So, and that's in the introduction in part 1. So that's something relatively newish. The financials have been altered to reflect the internal submissions to the plan, and you'll remember there were amounts to be carried forward from 14-15, the current financial year, into the first year of the long-term plan, and there was also another 25,000 for to contribute towards a poll for amalgamation, and that of course will be needed now. Another major adjustment for financials was the increase in funding for Hawke's Bay Tourism, 300,000 each year for the first 3 years of the LTP, and also the changes in rate levels in order to accommodate those increases in the first 3 levels in the first 3 years. There were also some other adjustments made in the financials for the LTP. To reflect changes made over the last 4 months, external market factors, and you'll be aware of some of these. Most of these are all beyond the control of Council and have changed since the LTP was put together in February and March. The Ruataniwha water storage financial close and the delay of that and the roll-on effect on their requirement for cash drawdowns, that's been accommodated in the redraft plan, and also the reduced interest rates, which everyone's been following with some interest, culminating in the reduction of the official cash rate from 3.5 to 3.25, and that has also been put into this plan because it's...
Are we allowed to ask questions as we go? Okay, so look, there are just a couple of things, Paul. Firstly, page 184, which is the consequential rate increase numbers as a result primarily of the adoption of a resolution regarding extra payments to Tourism Hawke's Bay. So we've got, if we look at the year 1, the green spot at the top, and then we've got the percentage rate increases, and I noticed that some of them are like 10 and 9% increases to the general rates, which came as an incredible shock to me. What numbers did we actually have in the consultation document that we went to the public with? Have you got any idea?
You see the template, see we've talked just there.
I'll log it. Manton up to he prepared all this, so let's...
Yeah, I'm not looking
No,
at the
it's just-
overall rate increases, which are further down, which are 5.87, 5.69. I'm worried enough about them, but the increase in the general rate is significantly higher in a number of cases there.
We only presented it overall.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a look at page
184.
184?
It's 184. That was the highest general rate increase.
Just to order, let's
Yeah.
get the accountant to answer.
I think that was put in the,
Good afternoon, Mr Manton, with your microphone on, please.
Good afternoon. I think you'll find that we generally only talk about the average rate altogether, at the bottom.
oh, in the financial strategy, which you would have seen, those rates were there. This document's so jolly big, let's find it.
Questions around that figure there, 10.25. Where's that come from? That's the question.
Yeah, I think that was always on reflection, always in the financial strategy. And I'll refer you to that page. Page 16. Yeah, part 3. Part 3. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yes, I've got it. It's page 22 in this huge pile of paper. Councillor, you were looking at 185, which is a new table which Manton's put into the final long-term plan. And on page 22, it's actually 22, you'll notice there that general rates, the increase in general rates is separated from targeted rates, and then it comes back to total rates. So the financial strategy that was presented during the workshops and as supporting papers in March would have had the general rates up at the 10%.
In March.
In the document, the financial strategy we saw in March had the general rates up at approximately, it had it at 10%.
Okay, so that figure is actually the figure that we consulted on.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That's a real surprise because I would have thought I'd remembered it, but there you go. Just one other query, Chair, and that's in relation to the delays in the money that was going to be applied to RWSS. And I know we don't have a date yet, but clearly that's gone back, like, I don't know, a year, 2 years, whatever.
Well, the cash flows.
The cash flows,
were wound back a number of months.
Yeah. Okay, so the net consequence of that is we've got a significant sum of money that's going to remain on bank deposit.
That's correct.
And I'm wondering whether there's an opportunity for us to perhaps earn a little bit more with that money, given the length of time it's going to be sitting there, by finding bonds or longer term interest rate investments that we can make with it.
So just to be clear though, so that would be a discussion after we set the LTP. I mean, you're going to have to, it's always a moving feast. I'm